Have you been wanting to compete in a bodybuilding show, but you're not quite sure where to start? Today, I'm going to go over the 5 phases of a contest calendar year and how to set them up. If you've been thinking about competing in a bodybuilding show, whether it's classic physique, bodybuilding, men's physique, obviously there is a few different phases that need to happen before you reach that end goal of stepping on stage. The first phase is obviously going to be the off season, everyone's favorite phase. Now, this can last anywhere from 4 months all the way through the 12 months. It really depends on the timeline that you've set out for yourself. If your show is 2 years away, you've got 12 plus months of an off season, probably some mini cuts in there as well to manage body fat, but you're looking at quite a long off season there. And obviously the objective over this period of time is to build muscle, take any judges' feedback to improve weak points or better conditioning, or better balance, accumulate training volume, increase food, and increase weight without gaining any body fat. So how do we accomplish these things in this phase? Well, obviously you're gonna have to be in a calorie surplus. Your food intake is gonna have to be high enough to fuel growth for yourself and support recovery. Training volume and intensity will be elevated over time. There may need to be periods of time of specialization. So whether you need to dedicate more overall training volume to your shoulders, if that's something that you need to grow, or whatever the objective is, there may need to be specialization blocks in there. Obviously, the key focus through this time is going to be mass gain. You're going to want to manage your recovery capacity, develop skills. Now, what do we mean by that? And that by the skill of bodybuilding, we mean your training abilities. So training execution, even your nutrition execution, Obviously, we want to monitor internal health markers through this phase, which takes us on to the next phase. So what do we do when the off season is coming to an end? Well, you're going to want to move into what we call a holding phase. This can last anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks. And what we're trying to do during this time is just solidify some of the gains we've made without gaining any extra body fat. So we'll probably reduce calories closer to maintenance during this period, reduce fatigue. We can deload during this period, address any health marker issues that we have. And it's just a midpoint between transitioning from a calorie surplus into a deficit before we move into prep for real. So we're not moving into a deficit during this phase, but we're looking to come down to maintenance. And obviously, to prepare the body to move into either prep or a mini cut, whatever it is that you need to do. But if you are moving into prep, that takes us to the next phase, which is the pre-prep phase. Now, you can consider the pre-prep phase as the beginning of prep itself, but it's not necessarily the beginning of prep. So the pre-prep phase, once again, duration lasts anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks. And now, that really depends on how you're looking or how good your habits and routines have already been during the off season, which with that skills development, you should also be developing your habits during the off season. Now, the pre-prep phase allows us to clean up some of those habits. So what are we trying to achieve with the pre-prep phase? So we want to start solidifying routines. So prep is something that's very routine focused. You become very locked into your routine. So this pre-prep phase helps establish some of those habits like your cardio, your posing, your training doesn't really adjust necessarily, but diet adherence, no more snacking, no more off-plan meals, no more uncounted meals. Getting into the habit of your daily logs, tracking your blood pressure, your health markers if you're a PED user, your daily weights, so that you can take averages over the week, your body fat levels, all these things that you need to track throughout prep, your nutrition, ensuring that is locked in, your training, ensuring that is. And in this phase, if you can't nail those key areas of prep, then you're not ready to enter a contest prep. If you're nailing them in this phase, then it basically establishes readiness for contest prep. In this phase, you can start to clean up body fat a little bit, start to move into that deficit, shift to stricter tracking. Now, depending on your body fat levels, you may want to either be in a slight deficit or just at maintenance. You can continue essentially with either that hold phase, or you can start to transition into a mini cut just before prep starts to clean some things up, or you can continue that hold phase and just start to establish those habits and routines. That takes us into the fourth phase of a contest calendar year, which is the contest prep itself. Now, many people end their contest calendar year with a contest prep. This is the second last phase, in my opinion. Now, a contest prep can last anywhere from 16 to 20 weeks or 24 weeks if you want to include the pre-prep phase. Everybody knows what the objective is with the contest prep phase. That is to get stage level shredded and win your show if the gods will allow it, while maximizing muscle retention during this phase. So you don't really want to lose any more than 0.5 to 1% of your total body weight per week in fat. Obviously, you don't want to lose any muscle where possible. Training is there to prioritize tissue retention, so you need to be watching your training performance through this time. Is it dipping? If it is dipping and you're losing strength quickly, it may be an indicator that your calories are too low too quick. Cardio, that's going to depend on where your food's set and what your weekly rate of loss that you've set yourself through this period. So you need to be looking, before you even start contest prep, how much you need to lose per week to be on stage shredded. Now, you should have already been collecting data in previous preps or previous cuts to make that assessment. And obviously, it's up to you to keep daily weight logs to ensure that you stay on track through prep with that rate of loss. If you move too fast, you may need to pull back and rest. If you're moving too slow, you better hurry your ass up, because before you know it, 20 weeks has gone by, and I'm telling you, give yourself as much time as you can for this period, which is super important that you utilize that pre-prep phase as well to get any body fat off if you need it. You need to be posing, nailing down your posing. Nutrition is going to be your number one driver of fat loss through this phase. You need to be keeping your activity levels stable, and then fate willing, you'll make it to stage peeled. Now, most people end the contest calendar year there and move into an off season. I don't agree with that at all. I believe that in the post show, you're very susceptible to fat gain. Because you're susceptible to fat gain, you're susceptible to reaching a point where you become insulin resistant like 8 weeks into your off season, when you're still recovering, you're still looking to get your health markers back in play. So this post show phase is just as important as a prep, which is just as important as pre-prep, which is just as important as the holding phase, and just as important as the off season. All these phases are super important. So the post-show phase, 4 to 12 weeks usually, can be longer, depends if you're enhanced or how lean you were for your show. You might take longer to restore your health, and that's why we have this period primarily. You want to restore your health markers if you are enhanced, regain any body fat to safe levels, normalize your hormones, and hopefully set yourself up for your next off season. Now, what do we need to be doing during this period? We need to reverse out of the deficit. So you don't need to just bump your calories up to 4,000 straight away, but you need to bump them up decently so that you can start to put on some body fat again. We want to start slowly tapering back all the cardio that we were doing during prep to even out that calorie balance. Hormonal recovery, which is key for both natural and enhanced bodybuilders. So being that low in body fat really has a massive effect on your hormones, and eating that little amount of food as well during that time, which results in the body fat loss as well, can really skew those hormones and affect recovery. So you need to make sure that you're hormonally good again before you start pushing food and training and things like that. And obviously some people become highly food focused because hunger hormones and hunger signaling is high. Some people's mood may be bad. You may need to re-establish structure. Again, like you've been so locked in to your prep this whole time, you probably neglected some things in your personal life that you could probably get back to normal living gradually. So just re-establish those connections that you may have sort of tethered over the last 20 weeks a little bit. But just be very careful of gaining too much fat during this period. Be aware of the post-show blues. Set yourself some new targets, some new objectives, even if that objective is just recovery through this phase. But it's super important that you don't get too fat. That is the number one piece of advice that you'll hear top pros and coaches give you for this post-show phase. If you can manage your body fat, you're going to set yourself up for an amazing off-season. And once the off-season starts again, this cycle continues. So you need to be planning out your timeline to your next competition 12 months in advance. So that you can lay out these phases and give yourself the best chance of coming back next year a significantly better bodybuilder. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video and share it with your friends.